Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 61 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. It is your main man, T-Squared, Tristain Thomas. Thank you all so very much for joining us on this joyous program this week. We got to get into Milwaukee Bucks basketball. Huge news there. They also started preseason. We got to talk about Green Bay Packers. They continue to roll, but there's more work to do. And then the toss sweep. We got to talk NFL playoff time. It's almost time. We're not quite there yet, but it's almost time, but we'll get to that in the toss sweep. But you all know how we get things started here on Toss. We get things started off with the state of the state. And for the past few weeks, we've been talking about Giannis watch, extension watch. Is there any news? When is he going to sign? Why hasn't he signed? And it's not so much that I've been discussing all of this and been stressing over this. It's been Bucks fans, Bucks Twitter, and fans of other teams all around the league. Is there any news on the Bucks Giannis Supermax extension front? Well, I will just let you listen to the man himself.
Bucks fans, this is Giannis, the Greek freak. I'm excited for today. Big day today. I'll be here in Milwaukee for the next 5 years. This is my home, this is my city. I'm excited to be a part of this organization. I'm excited to go to work with my teammate. I'm excited to walk around this city. And it's been amazing, man. It's been amazing, and the show goes on, and let's get it.
If you couldn't tell by that clip, that was Giannis Antetokounmpo, two-time back-to-back MVP of the NBA, saying, "This is my city. Let's get it. This is my home. Let's get it." Giannis signed a 5-year, $228.2 million Supermax extension to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks for 5 more years. It is the richest contract signed in NBA history. He is worth every single damn penny. The last year of the contract, which he does have an opt-out after 4 years, but that final year option is worth upwards of $51 million. Like I said, he's worth every single penny. You think about it, he came up the hard way. You talk about a kid who all he had dreams of doing was being able to play basketball and take care of his family. And today he's secured generational wealth. He secured a future for himself and for his family. And it's just, you hear his story and you talk about him, collecting shoes that other players threw away to bring home for himself and his family to go and play ball, and, his brothers, and being a street vendor. And you heard the story, you know the story. If you've really followed Bucks basketball, if you've ever followed Giannis, it's the whole reason why he has a Disney movie being made about him. It truly is a remarkable story. But it's really a story about extreme discipline and hard work. This is something that Giannis, and humility. These are things that Giannis continues to show. And you can add another big thing in there, loyalty. He's posted on Twitter multiple times that he has loyalty in his DNA, and he does. He's shown it. He's proven it. He spoke about how he wanted to do what Kobe did, what Dirk did, what Tim Duncan did, which was play for the same franchise for 20 years. Play with the same franchise for their entire career. He wants to do that with the Milwaukee Bucks. This is simply an amazing day for the city of Milwaukee, for the state of Wisconsin, and for small market teams throughout the NBA, because it goes to show you that not every single superstar wants to bolt. Not every single superstar wants to go elsewhere. And we've seen that with Kobe, but Kobe was in championship situations. We've seen that with Dirk. Dirk won a championship in Dallas. We've seen that with Tim Duncan, again, another guy that was in championship situations. Whether or not Milwaukee becomes that championship situation that proves why the move to stay there becomes worth it for Giannis, that's still to be written. We don't know that yet. Obviously, those of us who cover the team, those of us who follow this team very closely, who speak about it on a weekly basis, a daily basis, know that this is a very good team. They could become that consistent NBA Finals type team. But there's still work to do, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But this is huge. I've sat here on Toss many a day. You can go back and listen to all the episodes. They're available everywhere. And I've said multiple times, Giannis has never, ever given anybody a reason to believe he was lying. Giannis has never, ever given a reason for anybody to think that he was not being truthful. He's always said he wanted to be in Milwaukee. He said that Milwaukee is one of the most beautiful places that he's ever been, that he's ever seen. You got fans tweeting at him years ago saying, please don't ever leave Milwaukee. And he tweets back, don't worry, I won't. And here you go. A 5-year Supermax deal. If he does not opt out, that ties him to Milwaukee through his age, 31, 32 season? Still very much in his prime. Still very much a championship caliber player, and you hope that the Bucks have a couple rings or even more by that point in time. This is why I said this is a joyous occasion. It truly is to see a franchise like Milwaukee, who has had, it's been far too long since they've had a generational talent in tow. The only other generational talent you could truthfully say the Milwaukee Bucks have ever had is Kareem. And he bolted. He wanted to go. He was gone. It seems like every single good player or every single all-star type player that the Bucks have ever had has left. And you can understand why some Bucks fans were sweating this out and overstressing over it, maybe more than they should have. Because every nice thing they've ever had has been taken away, or every nice thing they've had decided to go and take their talents elsewhere. So you have a generational talent in tow. He's under contract for this year. So again, for all those fools out there saying, oh, well, he's gone, and he was under contract for this year. There was no way he was going to be gone. We'll get to them in a minute. You can understand why everybody was sweating it out. But he's shown that everything he said was true. He wanted to be in Milwaukee. He wanted to bring championships to Milwaukee. Milwaukee is his home. He wanted to raise his children here. He wanted to do great things here, not just on the court, but off the court. And to make that big of a commitment to the franchise, to the city of Milwaukee, the state of Wisconsin, another generational talent. Really think about it. You have 3 players who are generational talents in 3 major sports in the state of Wisconsin. You got Aaron Rodgers, just a stone's throw away from here in Toss Nation Studios at Lambeau Field with the Green Bay Packers. First ballot Hall of Famer, world champion, multi-time MVP. He probably will win another one, but we'll get to that in a minute. Christian Yelich, who it seems like forever ago, but he signed his $215 million extension, I believe, just this January, pre-COVID. He's tied here with the Milwaukee Brewers. And now you have Giannis Antetokounmpo. 5-year Supermax. 3 generational talents, 3 of the best talents in their sports. Here in the state of Wisconsin, it is truly a joyous day. And it really goes to show that if you're a superstar, you don't have to pay attention to the narrative that maybe national media is trying to put out there, because doesn't it seem like national media is trying to push superstars to go to bigger markets? Some may say it's conspiracy theory, but you sit there and you look at the coverage and you look at the topics and you look at the produced topics and what they talk about and how they always try to steer this way and skew it this way. And they say the most outlandish stuff in hopes that it gets the superstar out of there. I'm not saying they have any power, but, different people pay attention to different things. It shows that you don't have to go elsewhere. When people saying, oh, he's going to bolt, I'm sitting here saying he already told you multiple times that 1, he's not. 2, that some people run away from the wall, but he goes through it. which was very fitting because everybody was saying, oh, he's going to go to the Heat, the team that just beat them. You really think he wants to go and join up with the team that just beat them and drop them from the playoffs? He's not going to try and go and join them. He wants to beat them. There's a reason why he does not work out with other players. He doesn't want to do it. He's trying to beat you. Why is he trying to get with you and learn from you when you're going to take the things that he's showing and use it against him? No, I'd much rather beat you head up. I'm not trying to work out with you. I'm not trying to be friends with you off the court. My job is to beat your head in. All the signs pointed to Giannis staying in Milwaukee. And through some people's frantic, neurotic, overstressing of him signing, and why hasn't he signed yet? He's eligible to sign. Why hasn't he signed yet? As I said before, it is the commitment that is most important, not when that commitment is made. Don't you feel great right now? It's December 15th, and Giannis has signed. Not December 1st when he was eligible to sign the Supermax contract. You still feel just as great on the 15th as you would have on December 1st. Does not matter when he made the commitment. It just matters that he made the commitment. It's truly a joyous day. It really, really is. Congrats to him. Congrats to his family. I mean, you guys have lived quite a life, and they're going to live an even better life now. So now we got all the contract stuff out of the way. Now that Giannis watch has now officially been put to bed. Won't have to worry about it again. How about on the court? What moves are you going to make on the court now? Because allegedly, the move of John Wall to Houston has not moved James Harden. James Harden is uninterested in forming another partnership, quote unquote. He still wants out of Houston. Now they're playing their preseason game. He showed up to training camp late. Thought about not showing up at all, but he showed up. He's there, probably going through the motions. He wants out. He wants off the Rockets. He's expanded the amount of teams that he wants to go to, and one of those teams that are on the list, the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I was posed this question on Twitter at D20Double on whether or not I would want Harden. To which I said, depends on what you would have to give up to get him. Now, I know for a fact there is no way you're going to get James Harden without sending Middleton. There's no way you're getting James Harden without sending Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton would be the centerpiece of any trade for James Harden. Am I willing to do that? You know, the thing is, he wouldn't be enough. You would need probably two more players. You probably need picks involved. This might be a thing where you need a 3-team trade scenario going. I mean, the logistics of being able to do this are complicated. But would I want James Harden on this team? Let me be absolutely clear. James Harden is a former NBA MVP. James Harden is one of the most lethal offensive players in the league. The things he's able to do on the offensive end, drawing contact, getting to the line, getting his shot off, creating shots, passing the basketball. Yes, he does turn it over quite a bit, but he also can pass, are remarkable. Let's not poo-poo this man's talents. This man is one of the best players in the NBA, whether you like his play style or not, whether you think it's efficient or not. The thought of teaming him up with Giannis in this system and what Mike Budenholzer wants to do with this system, which we'll get to him in a second, is intriguing. You are lying if you say that it isn't. I'm just not 1,000% sold that what Budenholzer wants to do and James Harden's play style is meshable to what they want to do. I'm not 100% sold on that. Bucks are in their own preseason right now. They've already played 2 games. They're 0-2 against the Dallas Mavericks in preseason. You only get 3 preseason games because everything's been shortened. They're disjointed right now. They're having, some growing pains right now because of the condensed training camp and preseason schedule. You add him into there, how long will you be disjointed? How long will it take for everyone to gel? Will he be able to take to a free moving system? Passing the basketball, getting to quadrants. Understanding that Giannis is going to be handling the ball more so than you would be. The book is out on him about that because we haven't seen that. We haven't seen him have to really, and look, Giannis has already come out and said he doesn't matter if he's 1, 2, or 3. Giannis can adjust because he can do so many things on the basketball court. That's not to say that James Harden can't do it because we've seen him do it. He can rebound the basketball. He can pass the basketball. He can steal the basketball. I think his defense could be better. I think he played better defense when he was with OKC than he has in his time with Houston, but I still think he has some elements in his game to where he'll be able to play decent defense. I think he's shown that. But would he defer? Would his play style be what the Bucks need? I don't know. I'm just not, like I said, I'm just not 1,000% sold that it would be meshable with this system. Plus, I don't think you'd be able to get them anyway. Like I said, you would have to add in multiple teams to make this work. Multiple teams, you will probably need to send some picks, and you've already shoveled a lot of your picks away in the Drew Holiday trade, which was a great move, by the way. I know I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That is a great move because you're getting a great player. But I'm just not 1,000% sold that is the move that needs to be made. I'm not 1,000% sure. And like I said, if you can find a way to make it work and get them, I don't think it makes your team terrible by any stretch of the imagination. Harden is a lethal offensive threat on the basketball court. One of the best players in the NBA. You have to like that thought of adding him to your roster. It's very intriguing, but I just don't see it coming to fruition. I'll put that out there right now. I do not see this move happening, but it's fun to think about. It's fun to think about. Now let's talk about more on the court stuff here on Toss State of State with the Bucks. Now, I mentioned before, they're in their own preseason. They're 0-2. They faced the Dallas Mavericks twice. They've lost both games. And for some reason, Dallas just proves to be a terrible matchup. And one of the reasons why they prove to be a terrible matchup is because they exploit the Bucks' defense, which is why I have a problem with Mike Budenholzer. Mike Budenholzer is still in the drop. He still has them playing that drop defense. And it kills your defense in rotations and getting out to shooters. It is something that Miami exploited. It's something that Dallas has continued to exploit. It is a problem because he has not adjusted this. The same way Jason Kidd decided that he wasn't going to adjust anything. If the Bucks do not win the NBA Finals, if they don't even make it to the NBA Finals, I don't think I'm going to sit there. I don't think it will be anything that players did. Oh, well, okay, let me preface this. Players can go out there and play hard. They can play their hearts out. But unless your head coach is putting you in positions for success, it means nothing. You can have the most talented team in the world. Remember, Del Harris was the coach of the LA Lakers. And he had Shaq and Kobe. And they didn't even sniff the NBA Finals. You enter Phil Jackson, and somehow he gets them together to play, and now they're making the NBA Finals. Just because you have the talent, you also need the coaching. Because a coach has to put those players in the best position to be successful, which means you need to actually coach. You have to make adjustments. You have to understand that when your system is not working, you need to do something about that. And that has been the problem and the knock with Mike Budenholzer. Excellent regular season coach because you're going up against many different teams. Sometimes you're going up against the best in their conference. Sometimes you're going against the worst in your conference and the worst in the Western Conference. In the playoffs, it's not that. You're playing the best of the best. And they're going to exploit you and pick on that matchup and pick on that exploitation of that problem every single time until you do something different. And if you don't, you're going to get bounced. Now, we saw that this past season in the Eastern Conference semifinals, where you got bounced from the playoffs in 5 games by the Miami Heat. We saw that in the Eastern Conference Finals the year before that, getting bounced in 6 games by the Toronto Raptors, who eventually went on to win the NBA championship. Mike Budenholzer has to understand, as a coach, you cannot be stubborn. You have to make adjustments. If something is not working and it's killing you, you can't sit there and continue to get mad about it. You have to do something about it. The players can play better, yes, but you can coach better. And by doing that, it means you need to make adjustments. And you're still doing the same thing that's been getting you killed. Now I get it. Some things work, and you keep doing those things. But defensively, you should have taken stock like, okay, past 2 seasons, especially in the playoffs, we haven't been able to make open shots, but we've also been getting exploited on the defensive end because of this drop defense. Maybe we need to make adjustments. Maybe we need to, find situations where that's been exploited and what can we do differently in those situations. And it just does not seem that he's done that from any of the game tape I've watched, from anything that I've seen, and compared it to what I've seen before. From this team, from him, it doesn't look like anything's changed. Does not look like anything's changed. That's concerning. After 2 crushing playoff defeats in back-to-back years, you go back to the well of doing the same thing, and you have these same teams who found ways to exploit those issues, still continue to exploit those issues and beat you. You try not to get so hyped up over preseason. You really do. But this is the time where you're trying to fine tune things. This is the thing where players are probably trying to get into game shape. They're trying to find their sync with each other. But you also have to find your sync as a coach and understand what's working, what isn't. Now, I get it. It's game 2 of a preseason, but we've seen 2 years of this drop defense by Budenholzer. We've seen 2 crushing playoff defeats back-to-back years from Mike Budenholzer's coaching. Something's got to be different. This is the 3rd year. Giannis is in tow long term. That's great, but that doesn't mean you're going to be in tow long term. It may not be a make it or break it season for Giannis, and he's already come out and say, I don't think it's championship or bust. But this team is now in championship air. You are getting judged by what you do in the postseason. If you just make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, everybody's going and then you lose, everybody's going to say you choked, which some of those casuals out there are saying that he choked anyway. Budenholzer has to get out of his own way and actually make changes as a coach. You would think that's something that he learned being under Greg Popovich and them going through these playoff battles to win multiple championships. He's got 4 rings as a coach, as an assistant. You would think he knows better. Greg Popovich makes adjustments. That's one of the great things he does. That's why he's won multiple championships, 5 of them. You have to be able to make adjustments. You have to understand when something, okay, all right, the last 2 years, man, you know what? I mean, it worked in the regular season, but when we get to postseason, that doesn't really work. I mean, maybe we should start doing something different, right now and implement that in the regular season so we get really good at it and we could go through the playoff battles and be able to be better than we have been the past 2 seasons. So that's a little bit concerning, and like I said, I know it's preseason. And I know everything's been condensed. Training camp's been condensed. Free agency was condensed. Preseason is ultra condensed. You only have one more preseason game. I believe that's against the Pelicans coming up this weekend. Then next week, season begins. You're going full bore for damn near a full season. You gotta be better than this. You have to have an eye not just on the present, but also on the future. If your plan is to be back to where you were last season, which is in the playoffs, and making a deeper run than what you did, this is going to have to be adjusted. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that to see if any adjustments from Mike Budenholzer comes on that defense. I can't believe they're still playing that drop defense. It is getting them killed on rotations. But like I said, it's a joyous day. You try not to get too mad, but at the same time, we're truthful, opinionated, and passionate here on Toss. We got to talk about it. We got to put it out there, and that's the truth. What we see is the truth. So one more thing. We talk about it all being joyous, and I just got to get this off my chest. Now, I don't do the petty here on Toss, okay? I save that for Twitter at the20double. I throw a couple of barbs out there for all the people. They're out there talking about Giannis is gone and Giannis is leaving and coming up with your conspiracy theories about because Giannis has a condo in Miami that he's going to sign a long-term deal with the Heat, or the Warriors provide the most intriguing package of players with the centerpiece being Andrew Wiggins, as if the Milwaukee Bucks are going to trade Giannis Antetokounmpo, a 2-time MVP, a generational talent, for a guy like Andrew Wiggins. And no disrespect, the man made it to the league. He's got a better shot than what he has displayed. I don't know why he's not as consistent as he should be, but he just isn't. He's not getting traded for Giannis. Nor are the Milwaukee Bucks going to trade Giannis for something like that. That is just an absolute insult. And it just goes to show my point. Some people that are fans of this sport don't really know this sport, and they don't know the inner workings, and they don't make a whole lot of sense when it comes to transactions and team thoughts and team dichotomy. People, 2 + 2 will never be 5. 2 + 2 will never be 5. Understand that. Stop acting like you know the game, because you're embarrassing yourselves. It gives those of us who actually work hard, study the tape, understand the dichotomy of the team, of the game, of the league, put in the work to try to source for information, look horribly bad. And I take great offense to it, because I love what I do here on Toss. I love what I do for Toss Nation Media. But to poison the well with disinformation like that is irresponsible. I would say it's laughable, but it's more so it's a sad laugh, and all I can say is bless your hearts. Bless your hearts. Be better. Moving on here on Toss, State of the State. Let's talk Green Bay Packers football. You talk about joyous. They won again. Improved their record to 10-3 after a 31-24 victory over the Detroit Lions in Detroit. Now, as I said on Quick Toss, this was a game that worried me because the weird things happen at Ford Field for the Green Bay Packers. Like the weirdest stuff all the time, never fails, always seems to happen. And it almost did happen with that onside kick by the Lions where they almost recovered that. If that Detroit Lions player was in bounds, he would have recovered that onside kick, and you would have been in a world of trouble, a big-time world of trouble. But it did not. The player was still out of bounds. He had a foot out of bounds, did not recover that. Packers go on to win that ball game, 31-24, much closer than it needed to be. Special teams with yet another gaffe. You just got to clean that up. That just has all the makings of that being the way that you lose in postseason. And I'm going to knock on wood because I just do not want that to happen. But it just all has all the makings of, okay, that's how we're going to lose, isn't it? Because it's been a bugaboo all season, and that's just how we're going to lose. But I digress. A lot happened in that game. With that victory, the Packers clinched their second straight NFC North Division championship. Congratulations to them. It is a step, as I said, on the Toss blog, on tossnationmedia.com. It is the first step in a series of steps that you want to take to bring about and make all of your goals and all your dreams come true for the season. So you win your division. You're guaranteed a home playoff game. You go to 10-3. And because New Orleans went to Philadelphia and lost Jalen Hurts' first career start, he gets his first career win. Since the Packers beat the Saints head-to-head earlier this season, they own that tiebreaker. Both teams are 10-3. That means the Green Bay Packers are sitting there as the number one seed in the NFC. And this year, with the revised playoff format, they would be the only team in the NFC to get a first-round bye. This is huge. This team definitely can use the rest. Got some guys banged up, some nagging injuries here and there. Could definitely use that week's worth of rest. So that's huge. You win your division. You're assured a playoff home game. You're assured you're in the playoffs. You're assured that spot. And you slide up to the number one seed. Philly handling business. They're still alive in their own division at 4-8-1, which is just crazy. Everything is there for you. If you're the Green Bay Packers, everything is there for you. As I mentioned, the one seed and the first round bye, the only bye in the NFC. You could rest players. Like I said, you got some guys with some nagging injuries. Could definitely use the rest there. You can kind of sort of get prepped for the playoffs. You got your full complement of running backs back. You have Jones and Williams, and you just got AJ the Sauce. It's been a while since I can say this. AJ the Sauce Dillon. Back in tow, back from the COVID list. I'm glad that he's doing much, much better. That's a hammer that you do not want to tackle in December and January at Lambeau in that cold weather. Y'all don't want to see those dudes. But another thing that caught my eye, another thing that is there for them, is for players to continue to get better, especially in pressure situations, in big-time pressure, important football situations down the stretch of the season. I stress patience because these two players that I'm about to talk about, everyone was just on them and just they wanted them cut and they're like, "What? It's just another wasted pick by this team." And I'm like, no. That goes back to those casuals I'll talk about in the NBA. They're in every sport. These are casuals and people who are just impatient and don't understand how this game works. It's called draft and develop. Just because you draft a player doesn't mean they're automatically going to be a great player because they're drafted. they're good enough to make the NFL. Now they have to be good enough to stay in the NFL and produce in the NFL. That is a completely different story. That is where the develop and draft and develop comes. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, MVS. A guy who has just had drop after drop after drop. And yes, it is very, very maddening. But I said this on Twitter, again, at the 20 double. You know who else used to drop the football, but they were touted as having great hands? Devontae Adams. You're talking about possibly the best wide receiver in the game today now. A guy who did not have a drop, who has not had any drops all year. Simply amazing. MVS is learning and growing. He did not have a single drop in Sunday's game against the Lions. I repeat, MVS did not have a single drop in Sunday's victory over the Lions. 6 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. He's starting to get it. Rashawn Gary, a guy who everybody said, oh, what a waste of a pick. Now, he hasn't done anything, even though last year he sat behind 2 of the premier pass rushers at the time, Zadarius Smith, who still is, and Preston Smith, who now he's starting to get usurped by other players. Different story for a different day. But he sat behind the Smith brothers, who went out there and each had double-digit sacks for the entire season. Sat behind them, got a few snaps in, learned from those guys, continued to learn, continued to grow, and now he's starting to get a few more snaps this season, and he's starting to produce a bit. Had another sack in Sunday's game. This is why I stress patience. This is why I stress sitting down and learning the intricacies and the dichotomy of the game. As I said before, you can draft whoever you want. If they're good enough to be in the draft and they're draftable, they should be applauded because there's not very many players out there who are NFL worthy. But to be able to produce in the NFL, that is where the true development comes in. And it takes a lot. And it's not just on the player's part, it's also on the coach's part. It takes a tremendous, tremendous partnership in order for that to happen. And sometimes it just takes time. Some guys get it in maybe a year. Some guys get it in 2 years. Some guys get it in 3 years where they take that mega leap. But you have to allow it time. Not everybody's going to come in and get 20 sacks a year. Not everybody's going to come in and get 1,000 receiving yards off top. Not everybody is a Randy Moss. Okay, that's just, those guys just don't fall off trees. You have to allow for patience. You have to allow for the development part of the draft and develop to happen. When you do that, you will be less stressed. You will be better informed because then when the guy gets to a certain point, you just know. You can just look at it and say, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to be in my chest about it, but that guy just ain't got it. Because you've seen enough evidence to support that line of thinking. He just ain't got it. These two young guys are finally starting to bear fruit. They're starting to get it. And it's been beautiful to watch that evolution. They're still growing. They're still learning. But these guys could be 2 big cogs to this team moving forward. And they've got a lot of big moments ahead of them. Like I said, everything is still there for the Packers. The 1 seed is there. The first round bye is there. The opportunity for these guys to get used to pressure situations is there so they can flourish. But people have got to be patient. They got to understand it's draft and develop, not just draft. You have to allow these guys to go through the process, much like I told y'all to let Giannis go through his process. But you have to allow them to go through the process of the development part so they can go out there and bear fruit, so they can go out there and be productive. Not everything is instantaneous. Not everything is instantaneous, and people have just got to understand that. Let's move on to the toss sweep. Toss Sweep, brought to you by the good folks over at Toss Nation Media. Toss Nation Media, truthful, opinionated, passionate, sports. It's what you deserve. Y'all, we get to that point of Saturday football. And let me shout out some people. Shout out to India. Shout out to Ireland. I see y'all. I see y'all. I love y'all. Thank y'all for rocking with Toss all this time, man. It is just incredible the support that we get in those spots. So thank y'all so very much. But we're getting to that point where we got Saturday football, not because of COVID. Not because of COVID. It's because we're getting down to the bottom of the season. We're getting to the end of the regular season, and it is almost time for playoffs. It is almost time for playoffs. What we need to discuss right now are playoff pictures. Playoff pictures. What are the playoffs looking like? Let's go to the NFC first because we are a Wisconsin-based show. We talk about the Green Bay Packers, but we have an eye on everything. The Packers are in the NFC, and they're holding down that number one spot, as I mentioned before, 10-3 overall, holding down the number one spot because they hold the tiebreaker over the now number 2 seed, New Orleans Saints, who should be getting Drew Brees back soon. You hope for a couple more weeks at Taysom Hill, but, I don't think that's going to happen. I think if Brees is healthy enough to play there, Sean Payton's probably going to put him in, even though there are reports that are saying that they're not in a rush to bring Drew Brees back. But after this loss in a big spot where you now lost the number 1 seed, they might think about bringing Brees back in there over Taysom Hill, but we shall see. They occupy the number 2 spot, the New Orleans Saints do, at 10-3. The 3 seed, the LA Rams. Still weird saying LA Rams, man, but they are 9-4, and they're starting to get their run game on track. That defense is sacking everything in sight. They look like they're starting to round back into shape. They're looking like they're going to be a problem again. The 4 seed, by virtue of being a division leader, the Washington football team, WFT, the Washington football team. My goodness, I cannot believe that. Look, I hope they end up over 500, but there's a big chance that they won't be. There's a big chance that they won't be. Somebody out of that division is probably not going to have more than 7 wins. There's a big chance for that. But their defense is playing really, really physical. It gives them a shot every single game. But you just hope they find traction to get going. The 5 seed, the Seattle Seahawks, 9-4. They've been kind of up and down offensively, man. They've been kind of a hard team to figure out. You got Pete Carroll, who's a defensive coach, and their defense is just about to set records for yardage allowed and some other records, and it's just something crazy. Never thought I'd see that out of a Pete Carroll defense, but they have not been that great. It's really been Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and their host of running backs that they like to rotate in and out of there. They're the 5 seed. They're 9-4. They're not that far behind. I mean, they're tied with the LA Rams, but I mean that could flip flop very, very easily. The 6 seed, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 6 seed. I mean, they have a really good running game. They beat the brakes off the Packers earlier this season. They don't quite look as scary as they did earlier in the year. But, I mean, they're still there. It's still Tom Brady. It's still Bruce Arians, who's been there, done that. They have to be respected. They do. Their defense is really good. Their linebackers are very, very speedy. Their defense is very, very good. I mean, you have to be respectful of that team. They could be very, very dangerous. Now, usually that is where the playoff line would end. But again, because we are in COVID times, they increased the playoff teams to 7 in each league. So the number 7 seed currently, the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals. Now they were playing much better earlier this season. Their offense is something to have to deal with. Can they make enough plays on defense is really the question. They could be very, very dangerous. So it's really an interesting playoff picture in the NFC. What about the AFC? Number 1, the Chiefs at 12-1. They've already clinched the AFC West. There's no question about it. They're in the playoffs. It's not a problem. They've been winning games any way you want to. They've been putting up a lot of points. They can play close games. They play ugly, physical. They can do it. Patrick Mahomes, some people are saying he's a runaway MVP candidate. He's not runaway. Aaron Rodgers is right there. And for me, the best thing to do would be to make this a co-MVP. These two guys have been playing the best football out of anybody else in the National Football League. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think there's one that's better than the other. I think they are both on equal footing this season. I would not be mad at a co-MVP between Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, but that's just me. The number 2 seed, the Steelers, who have now lost 2 straight ball games after starting 11-0. They got beat by the Bills. That was just amazing what the Bills did. I did not expect them to put that type of performance together. First time on Sunday night in so many years, and they went out there. They took that game. They out-physicaled the Steelers. They out-physicaled them. They're 11-2, sitting in the 2 spot. Dangerous spot for them to be. Number 3 seed is the Bills. I mean, if Pittsburgh continues to lose games and they end up with a 10-3 record and they end up tied with the Bills, I mean, the Bills are going to take over that number 2 seed. Not that, and I'm talking in terms of, I'm still thinking that they get a first-round bye. Well, there's no first-round bye for the 2 seed. But, it puts you at a very advantageous matchup if you're the 2 seed as opposed to a 3. But the Bills sitting there at 10-3, the number 3 seed, number 4 seed, Tennessee Titans, leaders of the AFC South. Derrick Henry running over everybody and everything, has a shot at 2,000 yards. Ryan Tannehill still quarterbacking very well. Good receivers out there. That is a dangerous team. They could play a little bit of defense, but they could run the ball, play, keep the time of possession game. That is a very dangerous team. The Cleveland Browns at number 5. Now, I know they lost in heartbreaking fashion on Monday Night Football in an absolute classic, probably the best game of the year against the Ravens. Justin Tucker kicking the winning field goal. Lamar Jackson coming back out, supposedly had cramps. Some people think he needed to take a boo-boo. He claims that he didn't. He said he didn't pull a Paul Pierce. He didn't have to go and take a dump. Said he was really suffering from cramps, but he comes back to throw the throw the touchdown that puts them in position to win that game. It's just it's just a funny story that was a part of a great game. But the Browns sitting there in the number 5 seed, second in the AFC North, they still have a shot at the division. They still have a shot at it. They would have to win out and hope the Steelers lose a couple here, but they have a shot. It's a long shot, but they still have a shot at it. The number 6 seed, the Indianapolis Colts, another team that has beat the Packers this season. Shouldn't have, but, they did. The Colts at the number 6 seed, 9-4, second in their division. If they can start getting Jonathan Taylor going. Now, he had a really good game this past Sunday. Frank Wright needs to stop being stubborn and give this guy the football. If you're a Wisconsin Badger fan, you know what JT can do. One of the best backs in the country, if not the best back in the country in college. He's starting to get more opportunity. Like I said, 20 carries, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. You need to start feeding him that football, let him do what he does best. He's shown you that he can do it at Wisconsin. He's shown you that he can do it on this level. You need to stop playing with the football and give him that football. Let him take some of that pressure off of Phillip Rivers and make the game easier offensively for you. Your defense is pretty decent, but you need to make things more simple offensively. Give Jonathan Taylor the football. They've got a shot in any game. And then the number 7 seed currently is the Miami Dolphins. That vaunted Miami Dolphin defense. Tua Tagovailoa has done much better as a starting quarterback than I thought he would. He kind of went toe-for-toe with Patrick Mahomes until the Chiefs flipped that switch, and they got that job done. But they are currently in the 7th spot. You're really pulling for Brian Flores, head coach of the Dolphins, for Tua, for that team. Man, they're sitting right there. Now, the Ravens also have an 8-5 record, but via a lot of different scenarios, the Dolphins are the ones that are in the number 7 seed. But it is not assured that they're going to keep that. The Ravens are in the 8th spot at 8-5. The Raiders at 7-6. They're in the 9th spot. The Patriots keep lurking, but realistically, with the way Cam Newton is throwing the football, which is not well at all, and that's an understatement, I just don't see them really truly making a run. But you talk about a team with Belichick as a head coach, trying to figure out a way. He's just outside that spot. I don't foresee the Dolphins sliding badly to where the Patriots would even have a sniff shot at that 7 seed. If the Dolphins were to slide out of that, it would go to the Ravens or Raiders. I don't foresee the Patriots really doing much and making a run at that spot. So it's definitely going to be a 3-team race. It's definitely going to be the Dolphins, the Ravens, and the Raiders. Something's got to give. One of those teams have got to get that spot. So it's going to be very, very interesting. But now we're coming down to Saturday football. And if you're a Packers fan, you know you got a Saturday football game against the Carolina Panthers, a game that you need to handle business in. But this is the time where teams really start to kind of ramp themselves up, get ready for postseason. Down the stretch, those Saturday games, it just gets your blood pumping. It just does something to me, honestly. It's like, okay, we got those Saturday games. Playoffs are coming. It's time to get prepared. It's time to play some smash mouth football. It's time to get that running game going. Just does something different to me. But, man, it is going to be very interesting to see the movement in these conferences. You hope that the Packers can keep that number 1 seed. You hope that maybe one of those teams down at the bottom makes it really, really interesting. Do the Ravens slide in? Do the Dolphins hold? Do the Raiders make a run? It's just going to be really, really interesting to see how these things shape up. We're coming down to postseason, y'all. It's getting real, real exciting. It really is. But that'll do it for me. This was episode 61 of the Tristain Sports Show Toss. Y'all know where to find me on social media. At the20double. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and the word double on both Instagram and Twitter. Are we on Facebook? You damn skippy. Facebook.com/TON Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. TossNationMedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But, as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T Squared, Tristain Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week, so long from Toss.